Next time on Saban Brands Top 10, every beginning is eventually followed by an ending. And this is the thing too, is like, yeah, this is how, funny enough, this is how I see my videos when I watch, or no, it's mirror flipped. Because my graphic is usually here, and then I'm standing over here. That's weird. It's every beginning. The side closest to the wall. If someone's facing me. No, that's their right. So every beginning is followed by an ending? I just have to picture it in my head. But no, because the graphic's up in the right, and I'm standing on the left. The hand closest to the wall, my right, yeah, because it would be their left. Every beginning is followed by an ending. Okay. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to the premiere of the 2018-2019 off-season videos. Super Ninja Steel's End also brought an end to the 8 years of the Saban Brands era. Also known by some fans as the Neo-Saban era, this refers to the time that the franchise was run by Saban Brands, following Haim Saban's repurchase of the property from Disney. I thought it would be interesting during these few weeks of the off-season before we get Power Rangers Beast Morphers to take a look back at this era in Ranger history now that it's complete. And what better way to sort through history than by ranking stuff up? And since this is the premiere of this series, I mean, heck, I'm even editing this video using Adobe Premiere, what better place for me to start than with my top 10 Saban Brands Power Rangers premieres? And by top 10, I of course mean top 8, since there were only 8. Well, I guess technically there were 9, but let me talk about that. When I made the call for votes for this video and said there were 8 premieres that you could choose from, I had a commenter point out to me that technically speaking, there are actually 9. There were 9 Power Ranger series during the Saban Brands era. The 9th being the Twitch-streamed RPG series Power Rangers Hyperforce. Now, I, of all people, will never dismiss Power Rangers Hyperforce. It was by far and away the best Power Ranger series televised during the Saban Brands era. However, while I do know that Saban Brands had some creative input on Power Rangers Hyperforce, I just really more feel that the excellence of that show is due to the creative forces of the good people over at Hyper RPG. Saban Brands was just more creatively consulting, kind of like we're hoping with Haim Saban doing during Beast Morphers, not a driving force of the story, just a little bit of a creative consultant. So I really think that in a couple of different ways, actually, Hyperforce is just a little too different to be ranked exactly alongside all of these other series. Besides, you would probably get bored with me constantly putting Hyperforce at number 1 on every list. Well, that's one of my patented Orange Ranger Brands top 10 disclaimers out of the way, so let me get to the other one. 7 of the premieres on this list are single-story episodes, and a bit of a side note here, that's actually kind of a problem I have with the Nickelodeon season structure and this 22-episode limit for every season. When you've only got 22 episodes in a season to work with, you really don't have the real estate to do a 2-part premiere that really lets you flesh out the beginning of your story and give everything a strong foundation. The lone exception to this is the Samurai debut Origins, which is a 2-parter. And this is technically a 2B on this disclaimer. Yes, I am considering Origins the premiere episode of Power Rangers Samurai. It was clearly written and structured and intended to be the premiere. It's just that Nickelodeon was going through this Origins movie phase at the time that pushed those episodes back and made the 3rd episode the actual debut, but that's a topic for another time. So anyway, Origins is a 2-parter, but none of the other 7 episodes are. That stood to complicate things a little. Would I need to count the 2nd episode of each season as well? No, because when you watch Origins, you could tell that it itself was clearly intended to be a single-part episode. In fact, the 2 episodes had different titles, before Nickelodeon once again came along with their origin movie thing, wanting something TV movie length, 1 hour, that they could show as an origin movie later in the season. So, it turns out to be Occam's razor. The simplest solution is usually the best one. I'm going to be considering Origins, the premiere of Samurai, and we're only talking about Origins Part 1. That out of the way, let's get to the list. Number 8. Echoes of Evil, Super Ninja Steel. Is anyone surprised? If you are, hi! Welcome to Orange Ranger Videos. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because you must be new here. Echoes of Evil is far from the worst episode of Super Ninja Steel. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 when I reviewed it, but it is not a great kickoff to a season. Sledge and his crew coming back was nice, a creative way to restart the plot, but it just made the Super Steel feel like even more of a MacGuffin. The Rangers were just away for summer vacation, no backstory, no growth, nothing interesting happening to them. It was a little nice seeing the Rangers act as ninjas without having their Ranger powers, but then they free the Prism and get those powers back, and basically the reset button just gets mashed on everything. Number 7. Mega Mission, Mega Force. But Orange Ranger, you always defend Mega Force. It wasn't that bad. Don't lump it in with Super Mega Force. Okay, yes. That doesn't mean it got off to a great start. This episode had homage to MMPR just dripping off of it, though it actually starts with a somewhat confusing hint to the second season with Troy's dream about the legendary battle. We don't get much on who these Rangers are, not that there was all that much to actually get. We don't get much on who the enemies are, again, not that there was all that much to get on them either. We just get a whole bunch of plot exposition dumped at us really quick, and we're thrown right into the first battle. Here's just one little example of that. Gosei mentions that he was mentored by Zordon, but then we just zip right past that. It's just a single line. Could we get some details on that, please? Megaforce was not good with details. Number 6. Super Megaforce. Super Megaforce. Just better than Megaforce by the power of Super, I guess. Really, that's what it actually boils down to. Same flat characters, same strange lack of explaining anything. Heck, the villains actually got worse with the addition of the annoying Prince Bakar. But the introduction of the new Super Mode and Legend Mode just made for an interesting start to what was definitely not an interesting season. Besides, it gave us one of the single most mimetic clips in Power Rangers history.
There's a simple explanation for that.
That's got to count for something, right? Number 5. Super Samurai. Come on again. Super Samurai. Seriously, thank goodness they got away from the annoying trend of starting the Super season with an episode named after the show. I mean, that's as creatively lacking as naming an episode after the Monster of the Week. I'm glad that's something that they don't... I have to admit here that this episode is hurt by what Samurai was and how it was written. Just like I mentioned how Origins was clearly not written to be a 2-part episode, Samurai was clearly not written intending to be a 2-part season. Things ended up timing out well, as at the end of the first season, Gold Ranger Antonio is working on a power-up for the team, of course called Super Samurai Mode, and this episode sees him complete it. It beats out the premieres that are below it based on the strength of its story. I am a firmly stated admirer of Samurai's plot. It just falls short of the top half of the list because it doesn't really feel like enough changes for a premiere episode. As I mentioned, it didn't feel like this season was meant to be split in 2. This just feels like the next episode of the first season as opposed to the start of something new. Number 4. Return of the Prism, Ninja Steel. Now this may come as a surprise to viewers who have known me for a while and have especially watched my Ninja Steel and Super Ninja Steel reviews, but you might remember just back to the Ninja Steel summary that I was pretty good with the start of Ninja Steel. I gave Return of the Prism a 3 out of 5 when I reviewed it originally. They do a pretty good job of setting up the backstory, especially how everything relates to Brody, and Sarah and Preston at the very least get their informed character attributes established pretty quickly, so we feel like we're getting to know them pretty fast. Thinking back on it, I may have been a little forgiving of this episode when I reviewed it originally, assuming that it would of course fill in some gaps in the story in later episodes. But yeah, besides the establishment of Calvin and Haley and their relationship, it of course didn't really. However, I was on board with Ninja Steel early on, and this episode was why. Number 3. When Evil Stirs, Power Rangers Dino Supercharge. Remember how I said with Super Mega Force that the new elements to the story pushed it past a lot of the other deficiencies of it? This episode is kind of the opposite of that. Very little actually changes. I don't believe the super mode that renames the show is even introduced in this episode. But it's just the strength of the characters and the writing that makes it a good return. It is the full in-charge debut of Heckle and Snide, villains that make Madame Odious look like the tiny little fox puppy that she is, so it gains some major points there. It oddly enough for a premiere episode ends up being a character focus for Coda, though that again points to the idea of one story being written in 2 parts. That's the kind of thing you can do, dealing with his fear of ice and being frozen. It doesn't really all make sense. I wasn't really a fan of the main solution being for Tyler and Coda to get frozen, but somehow slip out of their ranger suits, which I don't think really should be possible. But overall, it pointed towards the start of another strong season, if not as strong as the first. When we consider the origins of a team of Power Rangers, we often wonder where these abilities came from. For example, are these perhaps powers from the past? Yeah, that's right, it's Samurai versus Dino Charge in this time's Final 2, so let's find out which of these 2 premiere episodes got its Saban Brands season off to a greater start, by taking a look at which of them got it off to the second greatest start. Number 2, Origins Part 1, Samurai. Origins had a lot of weight on its shoulders coming in. It wasn't just debuting its season, it wasn't just launching the show on a brand new network, it was relaunching the entire franchise. Origins is actually the premiere of the entire Saban Brands era. Or at least it was intended to be. It starts off with a creepy narration that explains the situation about the villains before launching us into a badass debut battle for the Red Ranger. But that fight entirely comes from the Sentai footage, you say? Here's my response to that, because it kind of echoes my response to people who say Samurai stuck too close to Shinkenger overall.
Quiet, you.
Samurai changed just enough through cultural distance, if nothing else, of Shinkenger's story to make that excellent story different enough to be good and interesting here. So even in the premiere, we had aspects of that, as the story goes very similarly to Shinkenger's debut, but just there's enough of a distance, slightly different characters, different cultural norms, etc., for it to be entertaining and interesting. The most important part is, that premiere was good, and this premiere was good. It just wasn't quite as good as... Number 1. Powers from the Past, Dino Charge. You kids these days, with your Netflixes and your Hulus and your Amazon-y whatevers, you can just pull up an entire season like Super Mega Force, watch 2 or 3 episodes of it in a row and go, wow, that's garbage. And then you pull up a season like Dino Charge, start watching that and go, oh, this is better than that Super Mega Force garbage. You lose the impact that it had on people that are ancient like me, that not only watched Super Mega Force 1 episode at a time, but reviewed it 1 brain-bruising episode at a time. So you just don't know, unless you do know, in which case never mind, what a breath of fresh air Powers from the Past was when it debuted. 24 minutes of television that left most of us Power Rangers fans saying, thank goodness, Power Rangers is back. A 100% original footage episode that established characters that had motivations and emotions and flaws.
I'm a human being, god damn it!
The story does take a little bit of time to develop, but it builds well and you're always interested in seeing what happens next. It actually makes you care, despite the fact that not much is really happening. The action all gets saved for the second episode. It kind of reminds me of some of the Boom comics, especially the recent MMPR 33. Not very much happens, but the plot that it dumps is so interesting and well written that you don't really care. The story does take a little bit of time to develop, but it builds well and you're always interested in seeing what happens next. It actually makes you care, despite the fact that not much is really happening. The action all gets saved for the second episode. It kind of reminds me of some of the Boom comics, especially the recent MMPR 33. Not very much happens, but the plot that it dumps is so interesting and well written that you don't really care. Number 1! But enough about what I think. What about what you think? Let's take a look at the viewer's choice. Great goodness gracious, this might be the most lopsided viewer's choice I've ever done. There's a 3-way tie for second place. Super Samurai, Super Megaforce, and funny enough, the team unites, the episode of Samurai that did debut the show. The comment specified the third episode, not the first. But that means all the other votes went to a single place. I guess you could say that the other 4 premieres all tied for third, technically speaking. With an astounding 22 votes, the viewer's choice for Best Saban Brands Power Rangers premiere is the same as mine, Powers from the Past. This week's YouTube shoutout goes to Raymond Liu, who by their YouTube icon is hoping Beast Morphers premiere will become their new favorite. Thank you for voting, everyone. Next time on the Saban Brands Top 10, every beginning is eventually followed by an ending. In the comments below, vote for your favorite Saban Brands Power Rangers finale. I'll be picking somebody who voted for the winner to do a YouTube shout out for, and as always, thank you for voting. And that is going to wrap up the first Saban Brands Top 10 off-season video. Thank you, heroes, so much as always for watching. In the comments below, once again, remember to leave your votes for your favorite Saban Brands Power Rangers finale, and let me know what you thought of my list. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel to see all of my videos and ring the bell. Get your notifications set up so you get notified whenever I post brand new videos like these Saban Brands Top 10 off-season videos. And if you would like to lend any financial support to the channel, which I as always appreciate, there are 2 ways to do so. Head over to ko-fi.com/orangerangervideos. You can buy me a coffee, that's set at $3. If you'd like to donate any less than that, or just a different amount that's not a multiple of 3, head over to digitaltipjar.com/orangerangervid. Toss some change in the jar there, and I would greatly appreciate anything that lands in either of those sites. Until next time, heroes, may the power protect you. Super Ninja Steel's End also brought an end to the Saban Brands era. Yeah, wow. Following Haim Saban's purchase of the property from Disney. And by purchase, I mean repurchase because... And since this video is the premiere of this series, and I'm even editing it using Adobe Premiere, and by top 10, I of course look all around the room. There are, in fact, 9 Power Rangers series from the Hasbro. 7 of the premieres on this list are single episode stories, and side note here, that's actually kind of a complaint I have with the Nickelodeon story structure, season structure. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe because you must be new here. Milk! Is anyone surprised? If you are, hi, welcome to Orange Ranger Videos. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I've got to admit here that this episode is kind of hurt by what Samurai actually was. Just like how I mentioned that Origins was assuming that it would fill in gaps in the story later on. But besides, yeah, so it gains major points there. That is going to do it for the first Saban Brands Top 2. You've already voted for your favorites, but hey, and yeah, Next time on the Saban Brands Top 10, every beginning is usually at some point followed by